on the ground. Let's not play dumb. But all right, though, let's get over to the next video. Baghdad drone attack near U.S. base. All right, man, let's get right into it. Iran-backed militia escalates strikes. Gosh, shit. All right, man, let's get into it, because we all knew this was going to happen, because all the Shia Muslims start wilding out all across the Middle East and some in the world over Khomeini's death.
It's caused a fire near a U.S. diplomatic facility in Baghdad. Victory Base is within the perimeter of the international airport. The area has come under repeated attack since Iraq was drawn into the Middle East conflict. Iranian-backed armed groups have claimed responsibility for previous strikes on the capital. Well, Nicholas Haq is live for us now in Baghdad. Nicholas, what can you tell us about these latest attacks?
Well, this attack happened just 20 kilometers behind me, west of Baghdad, in Camp Victory. That camp is almost empty. It used to host NATO soldiers, but also American soldiers. And we actually heard a loud explosion just 2 hours ago. And so a group called Asab al-Kaf has claimed responsibility for this attack, an Iraqi-based Iranian-backed militia. And they said in their statement that they will escalate these attacks, warning civilians, I quote, to stay away from the occupiers being U.S. interests here in Iraq. And interestingly, a few hours after that, about 200 kilometers away north of Baghdad in Kirkuk, in a town called Duz, well, there was one of these Iraq-based Iranian militia group that was attacked. And no one has claimed responsibility, but of course, the Americans perhaps are behind that attack. But what we've seen is a number of attacks by Iranian-backed militias in Iraq, really targeting.
Oh, crap. All right, guys, we got a bit of like breaking news. Well, this came in about 9 hours ago, but Iran says it has no surplus crude oil to offer to international markets after U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Washington could lift sanctions on Iranian oil at sea. AKA, they're saying, bro, we don't even got nothing extra for you guys. Like, we're kind of cooked here ourselves. Well, I mean, at least they're honest about that. I mean, I'll give them that one. They could have just capped their ass off and kept that a secret, but I guess not.
American positions, but also Western positions. This group, Asab al-Kaf, has claimed responsibility over the death of a French soldier in a base in Kurdistan. There were two bases, a French base and an Italian base, that came under attack, again, using drones. Now, these low-cost, high-impact attacks have really served to create this sense of fear amongst these soldiers that are here in Iraq. Mohammed?
Nick, let me ask you about something else that's going on in Iraq right now. NATO is withdrawing troops from the Iraq mission. What's the likely impact of that on the ground there?
I mean, the fact that NATO, that has been around since 2018, here to help the Iraqi forces fight off ISIL fighters, are now leaving at a time where they're really needed here, where there's an uptake of attacks here, is really strong in symbolism. Now, they're saying that it's just a repositioning and it's temporary, but we've seen Spanish troops leave, Italian, French, and most notably American troops also leaving the country. And the effect of that on a security front, well, that leaves the Iraqi alone.
Oh, guys, we're only $56 away from opening up the call-in line and possibly running a conspiracy hour if we got the time. And I mean, you guys can go ahead and support on Venmo, and whatever you send on Venmo gets doubled. So if you send 5 on Venmo, it equals 10 towards the call-in. So you can always use that cheat code. But if not, you can double tap that screen like the video, or you can go ahead and still send in a super chat or a gift. Appreciate the support, guys. Let's keep it going.
To handle the security situation here and the defense situation in this country, but also there is an economic impact, of course, because the presence of NATO troops, well, reassures investors, notably investors in oil. 90% of Iraq's revenue comes from the export of oil. And according to Reuters, the Iraqi oil minister is actually calling a force majeure, saying that they're not able to uphold their contracts with the various companies, the oil companies that are exporting the oil from here. And now that's a major blow on an economic front for the Iraqis. Mohammed?
All right.
Yeah, a lot of people are actually canceling contracts. Like, contracts that said, look, man, we signed the deal. You're going to send this much oil by this time, by this year, and we need it. Well, Qatar, UAE, and well, as you heard, Iraq is everybody's saying that, yeah, I ain't gonna lie, we're gonna start canceling a lot of these oil contracts because we need oil for ourselves as well, since there's a scarcity now. So yeah, there's a problem with that as well. But all right, here. Let's go ahead and get into this one here. More war analysis. Iran strikes Gulf states. Drone and missile attacks hit UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. And this happened about 6 hours ago. 6 hours.
The UAE. Iran is keeping up attacks on neighboring Gulf states. A series of drone and missile strikes targeted Kuwait, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Emirati air defense has intercepted several projectiles over the skies of Dubai. Drones also hit a Kuwaiti refinery for the second day running, as well as Saudi Arabia's eastern region. Dmitry Medvedenko is live for us here in Doha. Dmitry, there were numerous attacks by Iran on neighboring Gulf countries on Friday, and there's also been a new warning issued from Iran. What more can you tell us?
Well, the warning that Iran has issued is to the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah in the United Arab Emirates. This is unprecedented that these warnings should basically target a city or an emirate of this size. Well, previous warnings we did have from Iran saying that, anyone who's living next to ports or military bases, these are legitimate targets, should leave. Now, the message was circulated by Tasnim news agency, and the image that they're using is basically covering almost half of the emirate of Ras Al Khaimah. This comes as Iran has been for the past week alleging that there were attacks coming in directly from Ras Al Khaimah and from near Dubai on disputed islands that are controlled by Iran, like Abu Musa and the Tumb Islands, and even in Qag. So this is the accusation. The warning that came to the UAE, as I said, is unprecedented amid those attacks that are still happening. Our teams in Dubai have been saying that they've heard about these explosions happening across the city. We've seen images circulating about explosions there. Kuwait, also Saudi Arabia, have been reporting attacks in the past couple of hours.
Dmitry, we've also heard from the Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, who once again said that Iran does not seek war with its neighbors, and he offered some suggestions. So let's listen to this together.
We propose that to establish peace and stability in the region, a regional security structure be formed from Islamic countries, ensuring peace, security, and stability. We do not need the presence of outsiders in the region. We can establish an Islamic Assembly of the Middle East among the Islamic countries of the region, and within this assembly develop security, economic and cultural relations with one another. We must not fight each other or fall into the trap that has been laid for us.
So, Dmitry, how are Gulf nations now likely to respond to this suggestion from Iran to create a regional security framework going forward?
Well, Mohammed, it's difficult to say what Tehran is actually counting on with this kind of proposal, as we've just been reporting in the past 3 weeks that there are ongoing attacks. They've started on the first day of this war, 3 weeks now. Every country in the GCC, none of them has been spared in these attacks. There are real casualties. There's more than 20 people dead across the GCC, mostly civilians, hundreds of people injured. The economies are being bled dry by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, as well as direct attacks on industrial and oil and gas production facilities. Here in Qatar, 17% of the export has been knocked offline. So it looks like the timing of such a proposal is, off, to say the least, because the diplomatic communication that has been going on has been quite active, not with Iran directly, because the messaging coming from the GCC, from Saudi Arabia, for example, all trust in Iran has been shattered. Qatar has just expelled military and security attaches of Iran after the attack on Ras Laffan industrial complex, the one that I mentioned just minutes ago. So all of this is happening while Iran continues its attacks, and the message has been from the GCC, attacks must stop before any kind of diplomacy can be resumed.
All right.
But here's the thing though, Iran, their strategy is trying, like I said, they're trying to turn America from a asset to a liability. They're trying to make it see, well, what they're doing is being like, look, the only reason why you guys are getting attacked is because you guys housing their so-called enemy in there, and well, we're the enemy in their case. From their perspective, we're the enemy. And from their perspective, well, our neighbors are housing the enemy, and you got their bases all over. And these bases, they're attacking from these bases in y'all country. So what do y'all expect to happen? And let's be real, Iran did also say that, well, if you attack us, we'll attack all your bases in the region. And what does that mean? They're going to be attacking, well, AKA some of their allies, even though their real allies is actually the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza, and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Everybody else, they play friendly with.
That's Dmitry Medvedenko live for us from right here in Doha. Thanks so much, Dmitry.
Well, all right. Let's go ahead and get into that. Whoa, U.S. sending what?
CNN has learned that the U.S. military is sending thousands of additional Marines and sailors to the Middle East. This comes just a day after President Trump said this about deploying more troops to the region.
Oh, no.
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you, but I'm not putting troops.
It also comes just hours after President Trump shared on Truth Social that the fight to stop nuclear-powered Iran is, quote, militarily won. CNN national security reporter Haley Britsky joins us now. Haley, what's the latest? What are you learning?
Yeah, so Boris, we're learning that the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit off the West Coast is heading towards the region now. This is the second MEU going towards the Middle East. The 31st has already left from the Pacific going towards the region. We don't quite know when it'll get there, of course, what exactly it will do. We're still asking if it will stay in the region, if the military will have 2 of these Marine Rapid Response Forces there. Certainly, it raises questions about boots on the ground options, as that's the first thing people think of when they think of these MEUs. But these units are really kind of the Swiss Army knives of the Marines and of the military. They can provide aviation logistics support. So they provide commanders a lot of options. A lot we still don't know about this deployment, but it certainly provides a lot of options to Admiral Bradley Cooper of CENTCOM.
It also raises questions about how long this engagement might go. We heard President Trump say it would be a matter of weeks. Now there are questions about whether this is going to be prolonged.
That's right. I mean, we still don't know how long this is going to go. We hear Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth saying it could be 4 weeks, it could be 5 weeks, it could be 3 weeks. Obviously, we're nearing the fourth week point at this point. But they keep saying, we keep hearing from these senior officials that, as we just heard from the president, this is essentially won, that the conflict is, there's fewer targets to hit. But still, the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed. We just saw yesterday an F-35, U.S. F-35 had to make...
Apparently, we were supposed to be using these, well, damn, they said 2,500, but I guess they added 2,000 more Marines and sailors to go ahead and take Karg Island. Now, like I said, allegedly, this is what they're going to be using to take Karg Island. We'll see in the coming days because they're on the way. So we'll see.
An emergency landing after sources say it would believed to be hit by Iranian fire. So there's certainly a lot still happening on the ground here, and these units moving in will just provide more options for what the president decides to do next.
Haley Britsky, thanks so much for that reporting.
CNN's Kevin Liptak joins me from the White House. And Kevin, let me go to you first. And more Marines, like we were saying, making their way to the Middle East as administration, of course, pushes we've been talking about for extra funding, some $200 billion. Bring us up to date, the very latest. What do we know, first of all, about this deployment?
Right. And this will be the second, what they call a Marine Expeditionary Unit that's now headed towards the Middle East. There is another one that is deploying from Asia and heading in that direction. So it will bring the total number of Marines tasked to these units to about 4,500, and it will add to the about 50,000 American troops that are already in the Middle East. Now, what exactly these Marines will be tasked with, it's not clear. And it comes, of course, as the president does seem to be weighing whether to order a ground operation inside Iran, whether it's to secure Karg Island, that very critical area that the administration thinks would put pressure on the Iranian regime, or to go into Iran to try and retrieve some of the highly enriched nuclear material that is buried far underground. That is certainly something that those Marines could be doing, but it is not necessarily what they're going to be doing. They also have tasks like aviation support, logistics support, all of these other areas that they could potentially be ordered up to do once they arrive. But it all seems to be a demonstration.
What's concerning me is that it went from like, what was it, 2,500 to now like 4,500. So obviously, we ain't just going there just to add more force there. We might actually be trying to take Karg Island. And I mean, like I said, hopefully that works out for us, but let's not pretend like this just gonna, well, it could be a very easy operation. We go in there, we topple them easy. Every shot we fired lands because it's the Marines, they're really good at shooting. So we'll see. It could be an easy operation, but 9 times out of 10, I'm say 77 times out of 10, it won't be. So it's like a 30% chance that we just go through there and sweep them, a 70% chance that we'll still take it, but not without like heavy losses.
That the president is reinforcing the American troop posture in the region as this war grinds on. We're about to enter the 4th week of this conflict. The president and other administration officials have said that it could last between 4 and 6 weeks. So we are in about a week's time nearing the window when, according to the administration's own estimates, it could be winding down.
Do me a favor and double tap that screen and like the video, guys. We got about 20 of y'all in here, man. Do me a favor and double tap that screen.
But certainly this decision to send these troops into the region suggests that it may not be ending anytime quickly.
The president said yesterday he's not going to have boots on the ground. He also said, though, that he would not tell the media if he was going to do that. Do you think that we'll end up seeing American military on the ground in Iran, including special operations forces?
Well, first of all, I would never take that option off the table. And so that's always been my recommendation from the Trump administration to the Biden administration. Don't take that option off the table. You never know what's going to happen, and you want to have that flexibility. With regard to that, I've commented before that I think, some type of large-scale operation into the internal part of Iran, going after a nuclear site to secure enrichment material would be very complicated, very risky, and would be a very difficult mission. Now, something short of that, where you're trying to seize Karg Island as a leverage point against the Iranians, more doable. It would require more Marines than we have now, or a broader set of service members. But I would never take that option off the table. And you mentioned special operations forces. Look, we use them for various means. It could be a type of raid, or it could be to train militia inside the country. So again, I think that is a tool that every president should retain.
Do you think that's what the administration is doing with these more warships and Marines heading to the area? What does that signal to you?
I would certainly tee up options for the president. I think the job of the Secretary of Defense, of the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is to give the president options, and the more the better. The more room he can have to make a decision with regard to which way to go, depending on either a policy choice or in reaction to what the Iranians are doing or threatening. And so again, I would not only keep that card on the table, I would make sure I had the cards available to me in case I want to use them, because otherwise it takes a long time to get these forces in place. The president spoke, or DOD mentioned last week about sending the Marines out of the Pacific, and they're still en route, right? They were recently spotted off of Singapore. So it's going to take another week or so for them to get to the region. So you want to make sure you have those tools in place so that if you need to use them, want to use them, they're available.
Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and get to the next video. F it. Let's have a little fun, because I'm about to grill Officer Tatum. Man, what this man said is wild as hell. But let's go ahead and get into Officer Tatum, because everybody's attacking John Kent for being a real one. I know some people disagree with them. Go like, why are you still like taking away blame from Trump? Well, bro, at least he resigned and actually put out the truth.